Welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, where we pull back the curtain on the intricate world of data-driven marketing. On this show, we delve into the convergence of marketing as an art form and data as a scientific foundation, unveiling the secrets to turning raw data into marketing gold. I'm your host, Catherine Turnoff, Senior Product Manager at Deluxe. Join us as we dive into real-life case studies and give you a front-row seat to industry pioneers and visionaries. Welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, turning data into gold. I'm Catherine Turnoff, and I'm here with Chris Villarreal, Global Director of Wearables at Meta. Chris, welcome.
Good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey? What brought you here to Meta today?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. When I started, I think the most important thing to know is that I started by being born and raised in Mexico. As an immigrant, I think that you turn up and are huge observer of human nature and culture. And so I think that makes me a great marketer. After college, I was working in consulting. It was not a good fit. And so I quit my job and moved to Texas. And remember that when I was in college, I used to love Melrose Place. It was a terrible way to make a career choice, but I thought advertising looks really fun. So I went into advertising, went to business school, and then went on the client side. And after a few years, had this really amazing opportunity to work at American Express on the launch of Plenty, which was a multi-partner rewards program. And I did that from the very ideation of it, from business development to the business case, all the way through to launching. So brand strategy, visual identity, all the advertising, point of sale. And that really made me realize how much I loved building and launching brands. And so I had the chance to do it for Goldman Sachs by launching Marks by Goldman Sachs. Then I came to Meta and helped launch Novi, which was like a fintech wallet, and then moved over to Reality Labs, where I now lead and launch all of our wearable devices.
Amazing. A real trajectory from Melrose Place to wearables.
Totally.
I like it. So let's head into our first segment, Alchemy Unveiled, Mixing Marketing Potions. What data points are you currently using that drive your marketing decisions?
Yeah, so I think we have a couple. I think the most strategic data points we have is what do we know about our customers and what do we have to do to convince them? And the thing that's really interesting here is that we don't have an existing category we're playing in. We're really at the beginning of creating a category and selling a new kind of device. And so a lot of what we do is make sure that our strategy is grounded on what do we know about our customers and what they're looking for in terms of value and insights, and how can we appeal to their passions and connect that to why they need a pair of Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
I think this fits nicely into our next segments, from nuggets to campaign gold. So for our audience members who aren't as invested in these types of products, can you help us understand what smart glasses can do? I know we touched on it a little bit. Maybe we'll take a deeper dive here.
Yeah, sure. So these are the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. They come in multiple styles. They come in multiple frame colors. There's also transition lenses, which go from light to dark as you go from inside to outside. You can also add prescription lenses because all the technology is inside the frame. The way to think about these is think of it as you're kind of putting a computer on your face, right? So on the front, there's an LED on one side, which always lights up when you take a picture or a video so that people know you're doing that. Privacy is at the center of the product. On the other side is a high quality lens that takes up to 3 minutes of video and all kinds of pictures. There are microphones to record spatial audio. And then there are speakers along the temples here that are basically custom designed to put sound into your ear and not to spill out into the wider public. So you can turn these up really loud and the person next to you won't hear what you're saying. The newest feature, which is kind of amazing because again, this is a piece of hardware, but the software is being updated automatically, is all our AI features. So traditional AI features like write a caption for this picture I just took, but also things like I can open my fridge door and ask it what I can make with the ingredients in my fridge.
Wow.
I can be in a foreign country and ask it to translate the menu and what's the healthiest option on the menu. It can look at 2 different items and tell me which one is gluten-free or doesn't have dairy or has the most calories. So there's this real, I think, opportunity to create a device that is really intimate, right? Because it's sitting on your body, on your face. 1, it looks good, but 2, it provides value throughout the day. as you can imagine, we're just a couple of years in. So there's a huge ambitious roadmap in the future.
If we talk about customer acquisition, right? And we think about the first smartphones, I distinctly remember going to buy a phone and wanting only a phone that takes calls and makes calls, right? Like that's all I wanted to do with it. And now, I mean, if my phone rang, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, who's calling me, right? So this, this smartphone is now a tool that we use every day throughout our days for many different things. Is that how you're looking at these Ray-Ban Metas, right? As a tool as ubiquitous as the smartphone that we would use throughout the day in our lives?
I just have to tell you, when I first bought a smartphone, my old phone had been stolen, so I had to get a new one. I thought, let's get into the technology. I got one, and I remember I was like, well, why do I need this? Like, I can listen to the radio for the weather. I don't own stock. Like, I have a computer at work and at home where I can get directions. And well, there wasn't an app store back then because I'm old enough to use a phone with no app store. And now, of course, it's very different. Right. So I wouldn't think of these as replacing phones because I think that they're going to just do some things better. The same way a phone does some things better than a computer. It's more accessible. It's location-based. It has a camera. Smart glasses are going to do things better than a phone. And a phone can do other things better than smart glasses, right? So the beauty of smart glasses is that you're going to be wearing them all the time. So they're persistent. There will come a point when you'll be able to ask your glasses, where did I leave my keys? Because they'll be in the world around you and know what you're seeing. And so I think that what you're going to find is that over time, there'll be more and more options. So not all smart glasses will look the same. There might be a pair of glasses that is better designed for sports, which is slip-proof or water resistant, or a pair of glasses that's better for running because it has higher audio. And so I think that over time, more and more people will own more pairs of these glasses or wearables because they'll be customized to the specific use cases that make the most sense.
I think it takes it too from something that's just novel and fun into something that you really can improve your life. You depend on it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I think that's what's really interesting about this is that if you think about the current things that are really exciting about these smart glasses is one, we threw a concert a few weeks ago in Brooklyn with Busta Rhymes. And for us, it was a good opportunity to show the audience that you can take pictures without pulling out your phone. And we know that when you pull out your phone, you stop looking at what's in front of you and you look at the screen, but also the person behind you. I think we've all had this experience where you look at someone else's phone in front of you, and that takes you out of the moment. After the concert, Busta said, I really loved it because all of a sudden I'm not looking at a sea of tiny phones and LED lights, right? So for the artist, it's really amazing. So there's the idea of presence, which I think is really valuable. There's also the idea that we are all curious humans at core, and AI can help you address and answer some of those questions. What am I looking at? What can I make for dinner? What does this sign mean? Help me make a caption for this Instagram post. So I think that that's the beginning of it. And over time, as the AI and technology gets even more intuitive and personal, it's just going to provide even more value every day.
Can you give us some insight into your marketing initiatives for smart glasses, right? How are you defining these keystone behaviors?
We think about it really in two ways. The first is everything it takes to get someone aware, considering, and intending to purchase. In that situation, we are really looking at customer data to help us develop content and use cases that are going to drive education. So let's assume we've done our job and we've gotten people interested enough, they want to find out more. Once they go online or they go to our social channels or even in store, really, it's our job to create content that can be creator content, that can be educational content that really speaks to the use cases. And here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because depending on who you are as a everyday person determines what kind of content you're interested in. So not just your passion points, which we talked about, things like sports and travel and technology, but also if you wear contacts or prescription lenses, you want to know how you can put prescription lenses into your RBMs. If you don't wear contact lenses or prescription, why would you buy a pair of glasses That's an extra thing to put on your face. So that's an even different strategy in terms of showing the value of the technology and how it helps you move through your day more seamlessly. So we look at all that and then get you to purchase, right? And then in purchase, we look at things like what is helping people over the hump. Because it's new technology, we know that things like free trial and fast and free returns and shipping are really important because to some degree, we need to lower the barriers and decrease the risk for people. Once you've purchased, then there's what we call an out-of-boxing experience. That is our opportunity to show you how to use the product. So there is a traditional out-of-box experience, which is when you set up the product, you go through a bunch of screens that tell you the key features. But then we're also tracking what features you yourself have used and changing the content in the app to help you further explain how to use the product. So our keystone feature right now, or the biggest behavior we see, is audio, right? Which kind of makes sense because audio is the easiest one. There's a bunch of use cases. If you're wearing the glasses and you're listening to audio, you're probably going to keep them on, but you're much more likely to take a picture. And so we're always trying to figure out how can we get you to take the next step, and how can the app, how can our platform deliver the right content to get you to take that next step? Not because we want you to necessarily do one more thing, but because we think that the more you like the product and use it, the more you're going to love it, the more you'll talk about it, the more you'll share it with friends and family.
Got it. So turning your customers into advocates. Would you consider that a measure of success?
Totally, right? So if you take a picture with your RBMs and then post it on Instagram, there's a little sticker that says made with Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. That is attribution, right? Like that is better than anything that we could do in terms of marketing.
Right.
If you're wearing it and you take a picture or you say, hey, Meta, take a picture with your friends and family, that's going to go further than any ad that we could ever do. And so we really want people to love and use the product.
Being this is a new product, it's also using an emerging technology. It's changing every day. Can you give us a behind the scenes look at what it takes to really build, educate, and sell a product like this in a totally new market? And maybe what tools you have to use that you wouldn't use in more traditional marketing?
Yeah, I think what's really fun about doing this is that you are not in an established category. We are building the category and creating differentiation at the same time. So our metrics are really full funnel, right? So a lot of other categories, we wouldn't necessarily think about driving awareness of the overall smart glasses category. But we have to do that because in some markets, there isn't a lot of competition. So one of the first things we look at is how aware is the market of smart glasses and how interested are they in this device? And if there's very low awareness, then we have to do that in addition to sell the product. And so a lot of what we do on the marketing side is we look at incrementality. So proving that our marketing budgets are driving business results over and above organic demand or organic consideration in the market. And so we set up our campaigns to be able to track those kinds of things. And just as an example, our launch campaign last year, we had incremental consideration of plus 11 percentage points, which for us is a way to show that, yes, it makes sense to be investing in upper funnel marketing. We also look at considerations and not just do you know what the product is, but do you understand it enough, had enough research to go in and purchase it. We look at purchase intent, and then we actually go all the way down to incremental sales. So we measure incremental sales, not just in direct response, but also in upper funnel metrics, because there are some people who, after seeing a TV ad, will purchase the product, and we want to be able to track that all the way through. And the amazing thing is we can do that because a lot of our advertising is actually on our own platforms. When you set up the glasses, you link it to your Meta account. So we can, on the back end, know who saw our ad, who purchased, even if you ended up purchasing in store, for example, right? Which is really amazing. And so our incremental sales from launch were 3.5 higher than our goal. And we contributed a significant percent to overall sales. So again, this is the value of the data on the back end and proving to the organization that this is a good investment.
Got it. And so how do you translate all of those data pieces into actionable insights that enhance the customer experience for a product like wearables?
Yeah, I'll give you two examples. So When we first started thinking about the launch of Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and this is the second generation of glasses from Meta, the first one was called Ray-Ban Stories. We took a really deep dive into what were the passion points of our audiences. And so we found really 6 themes that we thought were really important. And those themes drove the development of all of our content. So it drove the use cases we show in marketing. It drove the kinds of third-party data or first-party data we use to target people on and off our platforms. It also determined the kinds of creators we engaged with. So some of the examples are family. They're interested in travel. They tend to be adventurous. They're interested in sports. They're usually early adopters of technology. So you can imagine the kinds of creators and the kinds of content you're going to create.
Sure.
The second one is once they're customers, we know that we have to help them understand how to use the product, right? Because this looks like a traditional pair of glasses, but there's so much technology built into it. And so we experimented on social by creating these content series with people who are professional photographers and had them use the product to explain to our audience how to get the best shot or how to get the best trick shot. And that was hugely successful. So based on the engagement and the organic engagement we saw, we have now hired more and more of these creators to create more and more content to help our members learn how to use the product.
So there's really an education piece, not just in, or really to help the adoption of the wearable.
Yeah, totally. Because you think about, look, I'm going to put these on, right? These
Definitely.
These look like regular glasses.
Yeah.
They're amazing. But inside there's technology that's just mind blowing. So there's cameras, there's speakers, there's microphones, there's AI built into them. And when you first see these, you may think they're just a pair of glasses. And that's part of our intention. We want them to look good, that you'll wear them all the time. But to learn why you should purchase these instead of a traditional pair of glasses, you have to do a lot of education, convince you to go into a store and do a demo. And that's why we have such a really robust website and a really robust demo experience if you were to walk into like a Best Buy or a Ray-Ban or a LensCrafters store. So that's like just getting you over the hump. And we also know that once people purchase them, the feature they use the most often is audio. But once you do that, we want you to try the next best feature, right? And so that's why this post-engagement content is so important. And if you were to download and use the app, you would see that the content we serve you is customized to the features you have or haven't used. So we want you to learn how to use AI. We want you to learn how to do a video call through WhatsApp. And that's all about making sure people are getting true value out of the product.
To create that stickiness makes sense.
To create the stickiness, but also to be honest, because word of mouth is incredibly powerful marketing. It's more efficient. It's more powerful to hear from your friend or your neighbor that you love this product than to hear it from us. So it's actually a really strong business strategy.
Do you feel like you have all of the data points that you need to market to your base, or are you still searching for other avenues and ways to reach people?
I think that any marketer who says they have all the data
Right.
would be lying to you. You know, I think that I can think of the kinds of data I'd like to have and tell you a little bit about that and why it's important. I think that one of the things that's been really interesting about this category is it is both a fashion accessory, but a consumer electronic. And there aren't a lot of models for how to sell that to consumers. And so you can buy this product at a Ray-Ban store where you expect a lot of options for glasses and sunglasses, or you can buy this at a Best Buy where you expect to see other consumer electronics and other wearables. I would like to know more about people's mindset as they go in and how we could tailor the content to them so that we're more likely to convince them to consider it and to drive purchase. I'd like us to get to the point where we know who you are as a customer, whether you are a parent or whether you're a parent who cares about technology or fashion, so that when you come to our website, we know what content to serve you. That's like the dream, right? Is to start to really think about making sure that you're creating an experience where customers truly see value in the product enough to purchase it, because this is a significant investment. You know, I mean, they're actually, for the technology, they're quite cheap. They start at $299, but it's still an investment. We have to convince people that it's worth it.
I've heard that utilizing content creators, we talked about that a little bit, but that's part of what helps people identify with it and use it, right? You can tell us that it's great, but when you see maybe someone that you're more familiar with on different platforms, it kind of sticks. Can you talk to us a little bit about your content creator strategy?
Yeah, we decided pretty early that we wanted to be in culture because we knew that part of our strategy in the beginning was to create desire. Again, you're putting these on your face, so they have to look good. And then curiosity to drive people to learn more. And to be part of culture, you have to be relevant. You can't come in heavy-handed. And so we decided that we were really going to lean in on public figures and creators. And at Meta, creators are people who are really focused on content on our platforms or other platforms who really specialize in that kind of experience for their followers. And public figures are usually people who are well-known and also on our platforms. Right. So a public figure, for example, could be Coil Ray. So we use her and we do really sophisticated, highly produced content that we partner her on, and she posts it on her platforms, and we also support it with paid on our end. With creators, we work with a range of creators, from very, very small niche creators who, again, fit into our audience passion points, to others who are more well-known. And what I love about that approach is that we learned over time to give creators a lot of flexibility because they are experts at creating content that engages their audience. You really want them to be able to talk about the product organically. We have some creators who are cooks, so they create cooking segments with the glasses. We have some who are parents who are teaching their kids how to skateboard, and they shoot that content. And it feels really organic and authentic. And we could produce that same ad with an actor, and it would not have the same impact.
Definitely not.
And what I love about that is that our creator team has spent a lot of time helping us understand how to determine the success of creator content versus what we'll just call brand content. I think a lot of brands struggle with this. They want to work with creators, but they're used to shooting, producing, and putting paid behind traditional content and don't know how to think about creators. And so we really have this fairly sophisticated model I'm happy to tell you more about that helps us understand how well creators are doing compared to our quote unquote brand content.
Yes, that was absolutely my next question, right? What does success look like and how do you measure it?
So the way we think about it is there's social media metrics that are good corollaries to the marketing funnel. So you can think about impressions of how big a creator is, kind of relates to awareness and scale and reach on a campaign. You can think about engagement rate and audience overlap as a good corollary to consideration. And then clicks and traffic to a website are a good corollary for things like lower funnel actions like sales. And so we look at each of those for a creator and through a formula determine how well the creator did at both upper, middle, and lower funnel. And then we take that and see how much we invested in that creator. And that number is then basically we're able to compare that number to our traditional paid media efforts on our own platforms. So we can look and see that, for example, in the US, creators are better at driving click-through rate than our paid content. And sometimes our own content does a better job of educating. Our own content on certain platforms leads to longer video views, which for us is kind of an indicator of consideration. So we use all that to think about the marketing mix, the optimization day-to-day of how we're showing up in a campaign, which then, if I go back to our original goal of incremental consideration and awareness and incremental sales, helps drive that top line and incrementality even higher.
Are there any tools that you are an advocate of using that helps you keep track of all of these pieces that you're kind of looking at on a daily basis?
I think we have a couple of tools, and maybe they're not going to be the obvious ones, but I'll mention three. The first one is we have a decision science team that's embedded in our overall campaign process. And so they are involved all the way from briefing to readout. So we don't think of them as just tell me how the campaign performed. We think of them as this is our business strategy. What is our learning agenda that we develop in the very beginning to make sure that the campaign is set up in a way that we can measure the results of the campaign and get smarter. Mm-hmm. I think the second one is we share our insights team with our product marketing team on purpose. And so they span across product marketing and what we call just traditional marketing, because we want one team driving customer insights and excellence. And there's no reason for our product team to be asking them one question than us, and for there to be a lack of cross-sharing of insights. So things that are working for creative testing are then shared with our product team to develop, future features into the product. And then I think the last one is we take an expansive approach to measurement. I think that sometimes in the past in other organizations I've worked in, we've said, if we can't measure it, we're not going to do it. But we have a hunch that it's right. Instead, here we say, what's the closest way we can get to measuring success to see if it works? So I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, we launched our first limited edition Ray-Ban Meta with Ferrari, and I've been going to show you. They're super hot. They have like the Ferrari blue, and they have the little logo on this side.
Oh, those are awesome.
Yeah. They sold out in like 2 days. But we knew we wanted to do something really huge to celebrate the success of it and really get a lot of earned media. And so we decided that most F1 drivers start as go-kart drivers. So we built a custom go-kart track in the shape of sunglasses and hired a bunch and, hired creators and invited press and other people to come in and basically go karting. And throughout that experience, we also were having them capture content that we could use on social. Through that, again, because at the beginning we said, we really need to learn if this is a good way to drive more consideration and reach and frequency across social. It can't just be that we have an event and if no one knows about it, that's not success, right? We were able to track people who watched content from creators who were at the event, but themselves not at the event. Mm-hmm. Their consideration of the product increased 11%. And they were more likely to say that the product was part of culture. So again, it goes back to our general objectives. We just were really creative in how we measure success of all these things. And now knowing that, we're doing more of these events throughout the world because they seem to be successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. How could an average marketer take what Meta is doing for wearables and adopt it into their own, right? Like the average marketer with the tools they have. How is there pieces of that they can maybe take and use in their marketing strategies?
I think that for too long, we've said marketing can't be measured as both an art and a science. And I agree, it is still art. But I think that if you want to be a true partner to the business, you have to be able to show your impact. And so the first thing I would do is I would sit down with whoever controls the budget, right? That could be finance, that could be your BU owner, and really sit down and say, are these the goals that are important to us? And then is this how marketing can contribute? And if you agree on the fact that, yes, for example, in our business, we care a lot about awareness and consideration, marketing is going to focus on awareness and consideration and incremental sales. Further down the line, marketing contributes to post-purchase engagement. Do we agree that these are the metrics? If so, then you have everything you need for your decision science team, your insights team to set up campaigns that will help you determine whether or not you achieve that goal. And by the way, sometimes not achieving the goal is also fine. We have certainly done work where we have not seen results, but we have learned and made the next campaign better. So I think the idea of just being really clear on the objective, having business support for that objective, and then being able to measure it and talk about it is really important.
Just really going back to those fundamentals. It totally makes sense. So now for our last segment, we like to have a little bit of fun here in what we call our gold rush round. So in your opinion, when does technology reach too far for the average person? When is it too much?
When there's no value, right? When you're just selling technology because it's fancy. I think I saw an ad the other day for a microwave with artificial intelligence. I'm not sure what to do with that. Now, maybe there is value. I just don't know about it. The ad did a terrible job telling me why I should care. So I would say it's all about when you stop caring about the customer and giving them value.
Personally, what are you excited about right now as a marketer?
Ooh, I love this question. I really love how we're democratizing marketing. How for such a long time, it was a small group of people, whether that be brand owners, marketing teams, and agencies pushing out messages into general population and saying, this is the way you should think about something. And that power is really gone because now we have these amazing creators who have so much influence. And I think that learning to work with them and having and listening to them, I think is really important. I mean, I think of a great example is, the way trends on TikTok and Instagram rise and fall based on creators, not based on brands. And when brands try to come in a really heavy-handed way, they get slapped. But brands that do it really well, they're just like, they're rewarded. So I love that sort of shift of power to average people.
I love it. That's a really good way to think about it. Any other insights that you want to share with our audience, maybe even marketers that are across disciplines?
I would just really encourage everyone to take more risks. I think that's really important to stay really energized and, again, build a plan that everyone agrees to, but then be willing to take risks. I think that's what drives creativity. I think that's what makes people energized to stay and work for you. So yeah, just like be bold.
Thank you so much for joining us and for your tips and tricks. We've definitely enjoyed the insights. How can listeners learn more about what you're working on?
Yeah, you can follow at Ray-Ban Meta on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn, and we have a great blog on meta.com as well that tells you all about the new features coming out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
To never miss an episode, subscribe to the show wherever you listen. I'm Catherine Turnoff, and this is Marketers Alchemy.